Hello, I'm Jennifer Aaliyah, founder of the Sounds Foundation Homeschool Resource Center, where I help every mom get the tools and support she needs to easily build a thriving and successful homeschool for any child with my books and exclusive Homeschool Mom group at soundfoundationshomeschool.com. I'm so glad to be here today. This talk is about what it's like to be a homeschool mom. So I called it You Might Be a Homeschool Mom If. Being a homeschool mom is a big responsibility, and it's one that's often misunderstood. If you're watching this video, I'm pretty sure that you either are homeschooling or consider homeschooling. So you're somewhere along this homeschooling journey. Now, one thing that is often overlooked in this homeschooling journey is that this really is a career. Just because you don't get paid doesn't mean that it isn't a job. Just because you don't go to school doesn't mean it isn't education, right? If it weren't a career, then it wouldn't be such a big deal when you graduate your last child. And if you've ever met a retired homeschool teacher, they're some of the most wonderful people in the world because they've made it through homeschooling and they've graduated all their children, and now they're doing things that they love to give back to their community. So when you think of your homeschool journey, remember that it is a career. It's a choice that you've made. It's a job choice. It is not just a hobby or another check point on your to-do list every day. It is a serious commitment, and it's something that you are putting your entire soul into. So when you feel overwhelmed or you feel tired, it isn't just you. It isn't that you can't handle it. It's that you're doing really big things. You are having an impact in not just your children's lives, but the lives of generations to come, because you are building a culture of education, you're nurturing a love of learning, and you're setting up close family bonds that are something that is really lacking in this society. We have fallen away from the close family bonds. We have separated ourselves by having, everybody has their own phone, everybody has their own TV. And when you homeschool, no matter how you have your house set up with devices or whatever, you have a much closer family bond. Your home and your lifestyle is centered on your family and educating that family. And that is going to have an impact for generations to come that you probably will never completely see what you've done, but you are doing amazing things, not just now, but for the future. So for generations, whether your children homeschool and your grandchildren homeschool or not, the foundation that you're laying for your family and for your children and for their future will still impact those generations in amazing ways. Now, you may have a lot of worries, and that is typical for homeschool moms. I think moms in general have a lot of worries, but then homeschool moms, you just add a whole big pile on top of it. You worry about keeping up. You worry about their public school peers. Are they going to fit in? Are they going to get far enough? Are you doing enough? Are they learning enough? Are they going to make it to college? Are they going to make it to high school? Are you completely failing your child and they will never make it in life? Have you ever thought any of these? Those worries chase us around. And, they're things that we need to deal with, but most of them are completely unfounded. If you are investing your life into your children, into their education, into their well-being, into building them into successful adults, then you're not going to fail. It's nearly impossible to fail. You are doing the absolute best job that you can, and you are giving them everything you can. And you're never going to do it in a perfect way because none of us are perfect, but you are doing it in the perfect way that you can. The rest is up to them because they have free will and they need to make their own decisions and take what you gave them and make something beautiful out of it. So when those worries start to build up, please take a step back, take a deep breath, and know that everybody doesn't have it all together except for you. And your children are not behind everything. Your children are not failing because they're homeschooled. They're not missing out on chunks of life that is going to be detrimental to them. None of that is true. That is all just lies that and pressure that comes into our brain. And so when those show up, just please push them out, because you are an amazing homeschool mom and you are doing a great job. Anything that you do for your child, to invest in their future, to invest in their education, to invest in their formation and preparing them to launch into the world, is never wasted. Even the math lesson that just bombs, it's not wasted because you have invested in them. You know, they say if you just even have a trickle, your investment will grow and eventually be a whole lake. Well, even those little trickles, those days that it feels like you're getting nowhere, those days that you just don't even know how this is ever going to work, you're putting a trickle in, you are investing, and none of that time, none of that effort, none of that energy, no matter how it looks compared to Instagram and Pinterest, is ever wasted. Now, when you are building a homeschool, when you are living in a homeschool, you probably spend a lot of your time, like I do, looking for books, looking for resources, thinking about what do I need, what tools can I get, how can I help my children do better, having little lists of wish lists and shopping lists for the next year and planning lists. And on that list, you may even rank things and put little notes next to them. You know, definitely need this, would like to have that, this could be nice, but don't need to have it. I know I do that every year when I'm planning, and even throughout the year as I'm thinking of things. And I'm sorry, I fidget a lot. But the most important part of your homeschool is you. It's not the curriculum that you buy. It's not any kind of resource that you invest in. It doesn't matter if it's online, it's the Encyclopedia Britannica, it's a $3,000 science kit that has a microscope and a telescope. None of that means anything, because the heart of your homeschool, the backbone of your homeschool, the most important part of your homeschool is you. Because without you, homeschool doesn't exist. You can, even if you outsource every class, you are still what's making your homeschool a homeschool. You are the one that is taking charge of your children's education, informing them, and continuing on a vision of what you want to give them. So when you have your checklist and you worry about, oh, I need money for this, or oh, I need time for that, you should always be at the top of the list. And that's tall order for moms. And I can tell you, I have 4 children. My oldest is in high school. My youngest is a toddler. And I am not on the top of the list very often. But I have learned over the years that when I start to let myself really slip down and I feel like I just can't take another minute, or I am completely failing and will never make it through, or my children just don't know anything and obviously I am just not fit to do this, it's because I have forgotten to invest in what is keeping the homeschool going, which is me. When we get a special book, and I love out of print books, and I say to the children, this book is so special. I spent 2 years looking for this book, and I found it on this amazing sale, and if I need to buy it on eBay, it could cost me $200, so we need to take very good care of it. So we put it on a high shelf, and we open it up, and we turn the pages carefully, and we love it, and then we put it back carefully. We don't just leave it on the floor. We don't step on it. We don't just throw it wherever. We make a special place for it. And so when you think of these resources that you have gotten, maybe from, a catalog, maybe they've been handed down through your family, maybe you scored an amazing deal at a tag sale, you treat them special, even if you got them for free, because you know that they are precious and they are helping your children learn, and they are building up your homeschool to make it a wonderful place to be. You need to do the same thing with you, because you are more important than anything else that you have in your homeschool. The 4,000 books that I have downstairs mean nothing if I cannot get them to my children and invest in my children in a way that is meaningful. They're just paper. But you are irreplaceable. So even that book that would cost $200 to replace, guess what? You can still replace it, but you can never be replaced. So you are doing a career, okay? And it took me so long to understand this because I moved from a teaching career to being a stay-at-home mom-ish. I always had a little bit of a side job. I would tutor, I would babysit, I would do different things because my family needed the income, and also I just always had a lot of passion to help other people. So for the most part, probably 95% of the time, I was home with my kids. And even when I wasn't, it was just for very short stints of time. And it was this way I could have the money to invest back in them. I always said I've worked for diapers, dance, and orthodontics because that's where most of my pay always goes. But I had to realize that what I was doing at home wasn't nothing. I wasn't only working when I put on my work clothes and I went to the college and taught, or I put on my work clothes and I went and tutored, or whatever it was that I was doing. The rest of the time I was working too. And it wasn't just because parenting was hard work. It was because I had chosen a career path to build this school, to be the administrator, to be the teacher, to be the guidance counselor for these children. And so I had to take that seriously. It wasn't a hobby. It wasn't just something I did. I know that it's taken a long time and some of the family still doesn't get it, that because we're home all day doesn't mean we're not doing anything. So we can't just drop everything and have lunch all the time, or we can't just, do a project because it sounds like, a great thing to do. I like to do those things and I've learned to be more flexible, but at the same time, we have things to get done and I have to get things done just like people that have a job in an office need to get things done. And so that needs to be respected. I've tried very hard to set boundaries, and as I said, some people still don't completely get it, but I think they're starting to come around after a decade. So when you have a job, think of any job that you've held, that maybe you have worked in an office, or you worked in a school, or you had your own business. You've always had tools that you used, right? You had a computer, you had teacher's manuals, you had a copier and staplers, a day timer, planners, whatever it was that you needed for your job, you have had for your job. Now, when you stop working, because you're still working, you're working harder than you ever have, you start to forget about that. Okay, you don't go out and buy yourself work clothes. You don't say, well, I really need this planner because I am going to be doing X, Y, and Z at company ABC, so I have to buy it. Suddenly everything seems like it's optional and frivolous. Oh, well, why do I need that? I mean, I'm not leaving the house, and a planner would be nice, but you know what? I'll just use a spiral bound notebook and I'll make it work because it's not necessary. I don't need it, but you do. There are tools that you need. Once I realized that investing in tools, now this doesn't mean like go out and buy your dream list of things, because we all know that we have this dream list and we also have funds. So we need to stay within our budget and our constraints. But once I realized that investing in tools for me, such as a functional planner that did what I needed it to do, not just the cheap one that was this big that I could get for $1, or a little notebook that I could scribble on, one that I could actually plan out my days, see what was going on, and keep organized, and buy tools to make keeping up with the house, cleaning the house, cooking, taking care of the children easier, tools for my job, then life completely changed. Because I recently wrote a blog post about my new broom. I'm in love with this Norwex broom that I bought for myself. And 10 years ago, I never would have done this. I would have just taken the broom that I have that I bought on clearance, and it was the cheapest one because, hey, it's a broom. It's just going to go on the floor, and it's not like it's really important, right? It's not like anybody's going to know what job I'm doing. It's not like I get paid for sweeping the floor. So I'd buy this clearance broom and the bristles would all split and it wouldn't really pick things up, and I'd have to sweep the floor 3 times to get it clean. But I don't have a job, so why not, right? Well, I do have a job because you're educating your children and doing all these other things, and sweeping the floor 3 times. Think of what you could do in that amount of time. You could read another book. You could sit down and play a game. You could actually sit and read something that you want to read. So this whole new mindset opened up, and I've really been consciously for the last 5 years investing in what I need to get my job done the right way. So I got this broom because I have to tell you, I like my floors clean, but sweeping the floors is just like the bane of my existence. And I invested in this broom, and it is the most amazing broom ever. And that might seem lame, but I am still excited 2 weeks later that I bought this broom. It makes cleaning the floors so much easier. It's cut the amount of time that I spend in half, and they are so much cleaner, which makes me so much happier. And it's just a little thing, but that is investing in tools. So don't be afraid to buy the tools that you need. Make time for little things that fill your cup. Now, if you're getting the tools to make your life easier, like I have 3 crock pots, this way I can have multiple things cooking during the day. That is investing in me because now I have a little extra time. That extra time may not be 3 hours as much as I would love it to be. Sometimes it's 30 seconds. But look at your day and find little pockets of time that you can invest in you. So for instance, take 30 seconds in the morning and put on some jewelry if that makes you happy. I forgot earrings today because it was a crazy day, but everybody's like, oh, I don't know how you have time for that. I take the 30 seconds, I put on a necklace and earrings, and that's it, because it makes me feel like I have taken care of myself. And so I feel ready to face the day. I'm not just rushing together, thrown together, feeling like I'm just a mess and I don't have my life together. This makes me feel like, hey, you know what? I have a job to do and I am ready to do it. Whatever your thing is, take 5 minutes and drink a cup of tea at 2 o'clock. Or take an extra 45 seconds in the bathroom in the morning, and I know they're going to be banging on the door, but let them bang for 45 seconds longer, and put cream on your hands so they're not dry and itchy all day. These are little things that you can do that are going to fill you up, because when you ignore putting the cream on your hands, my hands get so dry in the winter, and I used to think, well, I don't have time to take care of them. You know what happens? That irritates you all day, and it makes your work harder and more arduous because you're just uncomfortable. And so all day long you're thinking, I wish I could just put cream on my hands, but I can't because I don't have time. Make time to put cream on your hands and keep them nice and smooth and healthy, because you deserve to be healthy and taken care of. I'm not saying lounging on a chaise lounge with eating bonbons and drinking champagne all day. I mean, that's just not realistic in our world. But hand cream, yes, that you deserve. So find these little pockets. 2 minutes in the morning, 30 seconds in the afternoon, 40 seconds before you go to bed, to say a prayer, do a journal, read a page in a book every day. Whatever it is that's going to fill you up, this way you can keep giving, is something that will pay dividends for years to come. Now, once you have yourself filled up, which I want you to really think about this, and it might take you a while to build up those, start making systems. Systems make life so much easier. And for a long time, I avoided these systems because I felt like I didn't want to be stuck in a box. I wanted my kids to be out of school. This way it wasn't like they were mandated to just follow this bell schedule. When I was a teacher, the bells drove me crazy. So I wanted them to have the time and the freedom and the space to develop at their own pace, to really just get lost in a lesson or do what they needed to do, to not be rushed all the time. However, I realized that not having a system, not having any kind of structure, just made the day so much more stressful. So you can still be flexible, but have systems. And some systems that we've instituted is that we have a rotation for lunch schedule, because lunch is always like, it's in the middle of the day, you're trying to get a lot of things done. My kids like a hot lunch, which is great, but I'm not spending 3 hours on lunch. So we came up with a list of easy lunch ideas that we do on a rotation. So every day we look at the list and we're like, okay, well, today is rice and beans with olives. That's one of their favorites. All of them are things that can be made in 15 minutes or less, because we don't have a lot of time to waste on this. I want them to have a hot lunch. We sit down and we have a little discussion, but if we spend all day, forget it. We're never going to get anywhere. And also, like, I just run out of patience after a while. I need to get my stuff done because it gets late in the day and I get tired and then I get cranky and it gets hard to get it done. So we have our things, and also we're not wandering around for 20 minutes trying to figure out what to make for lunch. So we solved that. We found like another hour in our day just by setting this up. So Monday is this, Tuesday is that. And you know what? They're fine with it. It makes it easy. So if you can come up with like 6 meals and just go through a rotation, or whatever it is that's draining time and energy from you, find a way to handle it. Maybe it's breakfast. Maybe it's getting their books. I remember trying to sort out all their books every single morning. We lived in a very small house. It was hard, and I had to just keep clearing off the table because our kitchen table was the only space we really had to do anything. And so constantly sorting through things was just draining. When we moved to a slightly bigger house, I got an organization system, and it's just 6 little cubbies, because I have 3 in school right now. And it has the little boxes, like the cubes slide in. So each of them have 2 cubes. All of their books for the year are in there. There's no scrambling every day unless they don't put it back where it's supposed to be. But hey, that's the system, and they didn't do it, so now they are going to have to pay the consequence of trying to find that book and losing time to work on it, which is going to take time away from the fun stuff for them. So any kind of system that you can institute that's going to make whatever is driving you crazy easier, in the long run is going to make your life so much easier. Don't feel like having a system is going to lock you in or take away your creativity or spontaneity. It isn't, because you can always say on the Thursday, hey, you know what? We're throwing out the lunch plan and we're going to go do this, or we're going to play a game and eat popcorn and peanuts for lunch instead. You know what? You're in charge. You can do that. But at least the other days you have it set and you don't have to think about it. So it's kind of like set it and forget it type of thing. Get everyone to pitch in. Now, everyone lives in the house, right? Everyone participates in the school. You're not the one that should be responsible for it all, because we're all a team. We're a family. We're an engine that works together. We're a corporation. There's no other place that, everybody would come in and out and there's only one person that's responsible for it. So you need to get them involved. What we always tell our children is that you need to do this because you're part of this family. You make laundry, you make dishes, you eat food, you drop crumbs on the floor. You do all these things. So it's not like I can be the only one to clean it up, because I'm not the only one doing it. And sometimes when I say, listen, I need the enclosed porch, we have an enclosed porch cleaned up, and it's the place that they love to play. And I'm like, well, that's not my, hold on. All that dirt I just swept up off the floor, how much of it was actually mine? There's 6 people in this house, and I'm pretty clean. I try not to make dirt because I know I have to clean it up. So I probably cleaned up 90% of that dirt that didn't come from me. So don't even tell me, oh, it's not mine. Everybody has to have a job. So we rotate jobs, and there's all different kinds of chore systems, whatever works for you, just to get them to pitch in, because they need to be responsible for their stuff, but they also need to be responsible for communal things, such as dishes and meals, laundry, communal areas that get dirty just from use. I mean, it's not even that you're misusing them, but when you have 6 people in a house all day long, and my husband and I both work from home, and the 4 kids are schooled from home, it gets messy because, hey, we have a whole lot of life going on in this house. So I'm okay with it being disordered. Our house is not like Better Homes and Gardens, because we have 6 people that are running their entire life out of it. And it's just, I've tried to keep it where it looks like a magazine, and it's impossible because we need to be able to live here. We need to be able to use it. And what's the point of owning this place if we're not using it? So we use our house well, but we also need to clean up when it's done. Combine and mix well. Now, this means that when I first started homeschooling, because I was coming from a public school background, and I had gone to public school, I had gone to university, I had earned my master's degree. So what I knew was this school segment, that this part of your day you did school in this spot. And then after that, you did this. So everything was compartmentalized. You didn't go to the school on Saturday because it wasn't open. If it snowed, the school wasn't open. Once the last bell rang, you left. And when you left all your school stuff there, and you went to your home and did your home stuff. But as I just said, you're running your lives and your school and possibly your business out of your house. So when I tried to compartmentalize everything, especially in a 700 square foot house with 5 people, it was impossible, because our kitchen table was where we did everything. It was where we had our meals. It was where the kids did crafts and played. It's where we did our school. It was where I did work or paid bills, sewed, craft, everything. Everything was done at that kitchen table because it was the only space in the house to do something like that. But I kept thinking, well, this is school, and this is cooking, and this is life, and this is family time, and we're going to just keep this like this, in these nice little compartments, and never the twain shall meet. It's impossible. Not only is it impossible, it just adds so much to your day, because you're trying to be an actual school where you live. And teachers don't live at the school, even though little kids think they do. No, they have an entirely different life. So I found that you really need to combine things. First of all, you need to realize that education is part of your lifestyle. And yes, there are school hours and there's school days and there's certain months where you do school, but for the most part, you are living school. So you can't just expect it to just fit into this. And even if you have this, realizing that the rest of the time you're still educating your children liberates you from all those guilty feelings of thinking, oh, the kid across the street gets on the bus at 7 and he doesn't come home until 4:30 in the afternoon. My kids aren't doing that. Like, I need to do more. You don't need to do more, because while that child's sitting on the bus, you're sitting with your kids and teaching them how to play a game or how to cook a meal or how to get along with a sibling. Whatever you're teaching them, they are learning. And education time can go past the textbook time. You can have audiobooks, and we'll talk about outsourcing and such later. But there's a lot of education that goes on that doesn't fit into just the little school model. It really is a culture and a lifestyle of education, not just a school choice. Now, mixing well comes from another thing also. When you have multiple children and many subjects, you could school for 24 hours a day. But you need to realize that that's setting it up like a school where they have 20 kids in 3rd grade and 40 kids in 5th grade. You don't have that. You have 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 kids, and they're all at different grades. So to try to do 1st grade, all of 1st grade, and then all of 3rd grade, and all of 5th grade, and all of 7th grade, and you are the teacher for everything, and everything is separated because you can't mix anything. They need to have their own space and their own time and their own everything. You're going to drive yourself mad. Now, obviously, there are classes that the 1st grader is not going to be able to do math with the 7th grader. But you can't have math time when everybody's working on math and you just go from student to student, child to child, and help with what they're doing. Also, what we found is that history, religion, literature, these are all subjects that are very important, and we're very passionate about our children having exposure to logical thinking, art, all these wonderful things. But we can't replicate it times 4 because I'm only one person. And there are things that we can just do together. If you're reading a good book, you can all read it together. And there's sometimes, like when we were reading Little Women, that it went over the little one's head, but they still enjoyed the time that we were together. And there were some things that they picked up and some things that they just never got. But you also have a common culture then. You have something that you can talk about as a family, which think about that. In school, when everybody's doing something different, you don't have that. Take advantage of the fact that you are all together and that you are all in this boat together and it's part of your lifestyle, and combine and mix well when you can. Even if you can just find one subject that you can cut from everybody's schedule and do together as a group class. Read one book, do one workbook. Don't try to learn 4 different systems. You're going to make your life easier, and your children are going to benefit from this because now they can sit with their siblings and have a discussion about it. It becomes really something, like I said, about your culture and how your family story and how it grows. Outsource. Now, this is one thing in business that they tell you need to do is outsource. And the first inclination is, I can't afford it, or I don't have time, or why would I do that? Shouldn't I be the one in charge of it? Well, there's this common misconception that because you're a homeschool mom means that you have to do everything. You need to take care of the house, you need to take care of the children, you need to cook the meals, and you need to teach every single subject that your child needs to know. You need to be in charge of them learning every single math fact and be present in every moment of learning that they have. That is completely false. And again, it comes from that public school mindset, because when your child is in a classroom, that teacher needs to be with those students the entire time that she is contracted to be with those students. She can't just leave them and say, oh, I'm going to go do my nails. Okay, she has to be with them every single minute because that is part of the school structure, that they are completely supervised. But supervising children in your own home is not the same as supervising children that you are paid to watch over. Okay, you can supervise your children and they can be playing in the next room, and really giving them the freedom to self-direct and self-entertain is a wonderful skill, and it will benefit them in ways that you'll never imagine, much more than any textbook that you could buy. It'll benefit you because you will have the freedom to take care of what you need to take care of, to invest a little bit of time in yourself, and also to know that they have the skills to be independent and take care of themselves. So, just like we said, investing in tools, outsourcing, okay? I read once, and I don't remember where I read it, so I apologize for that, but that the main goal of homeschooling is to raise self-directed learners, those who can teach themselves. So teach children how they can teach themselves. You should not be pouring every single fact into them, because you know what? That's not an education. An education is getting information, learning how to process that information, come up with new questions, research those questions, and then take that information and process that as well to go on and have ideas or follow more questions or set up an experiment. That's a real education. The other thing is just checking off boxes. And anybody can check off boxes and learn nothing. We want more than checking off boxes for our children. We want them to have an education. We want them to grow into thriving, self-sufficient adults. So outsourcing really gives your children tools. Now, I'm not saying that that means that everybody should be paying for a very expensive online program. Some of you can do that, and that's great, or maybe you can just do one class, and that's wonderful. But really, for outsourcing, try to just find a way to do it easier. For instance, if you have little ones and they want to listen to literature, and that is wonderful, and they could sit and listen to books for 15 hours of a day. You can't read to them for 15 hours of a day. So there's this wonderful thing called audiobooks, and you can get them on a player or you can get CDs, although I highly recommend the little Kindle players or something, a little tablet, so you can just hit the button and you don't have to worry about CDs getting lost and scratched. I learned this the hard way, trust me. But then they can listen to wonderful literature and be learning all day long without you having to sit and just keep turning pages and try to read to them for hours. Another way that we have outsourced things is there's certain classes that you can get on CDs or on video that your children can do and learn independently. Some of them even have self-grading, like for instance, Phonetic Zoo is one of my favorite outsources. It is a spelling program that's on CD, although you can get it on download now too, and trust me, I'm going to be getting that next year. And it walks them through the lesson. It takes them through a test, and then it teaches, and then it goes through and corrects the test. And they are responsible for doing all of that. They follow the program, and when they get all the words correct in the lesson, they can move on to the next one. All I do is make sure that they've done it and see how they're progressing. Make sure that it's not like they're stuck on a lesson for 6 weeks and not getting any of them right. But it takes so much pressure off of me because I'm not the one giving them the spelling test. I'm not the one giving them the grade for the spelling test. And I'm not the one making them do this arduous task. And they really like the teachers that do it because they think that they're funny. So find a way to outsource, whether it's an audiobook or some sort of self-directed learning, something that they can do online. A video series, Liberty's Kids, is wonderful for if you're studying the Revolutionary War. Just see what you can do that makes it so that you are not having to teach every blessed thing to your child. The last thing is to give yourself grace. Now, just like I said in the beginning, you are the most important part of your homeschool. You are the backbone of your homeschool, and no one is working harder in your homeschool, even if they're taking trig, calc, and chemistry all at the same time, than you are. You are still working harder. So you need to realize that you are working tremendously hard. If you were in this career as a paid teacher, you would get time off. And as a teacher, I know that teachers work hard, okay? They don't just clock out at 2 and do nothing. There is paperwork, and sometimes they work on weekends. There's stuff that you do over the summer. There's in-services. I get all of that. However, there's also time off where they leave school, and even if they're thinking about school, they don't have to be. And they have time that is set apart for themselves. So you need to make sure to give yourself grace because you have very little time that's set apart from yourself. You don't get to clock out. Even if school hours are over, you are still in that house running it. Give yourself grace because you are working very hard and no one is perfect. None of us are perfect. No matter what you see on blogs, including mine, or you see on Pinterest, or you see on Instagram, those are just snapshots. And there's plenty of time that is a complete disaster. I'll be honest with you. All of us that are running blogs are sharing the best of the best. And so we're not letting you know about things that aren't working. So please just give yourself grace and know that you are trying very hard and sometimes things aren't going to work and that's okay. You need to just take a step back and try again. So I really want to thank you for being here today. And I want to thank you for doing the work that you are doing, for taking the time, the effort, and all the blood, sweat, and tears and pouring it into your children to create a lasting impact because you are someone who is changing the world. And so I want to thank you for doing that because the more of us that do this, the better the world will be. I hope that you have enjoyed this talk and that the resources that I sent along with it will be helpful for you. If you have any questions or if you want to chat about anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. You can contact me through my website, soundfoundationshomeschool.com, or find me online on Facebook at Sound Foundations Homeschool. Have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of the conference.